The life of Jerry Smith, a renowned oil tycoon, was always a subject of fascination and intrigue among the elite circles of society. With his vast wealth and influence, rumors and speculations about his business ventures were bound to arise. Whispers of his ownership of numerous oil wells, a fleet of tankers, and even his involvement in the construction of an oil pipeline to a neighboring country circulated through the grapevine. While some dismissed these tales as mere gossip, others couldn't help but wonder if there was any truth to them. Jane Smith, Jerry's daughter, was no stranger to the rumors that surrounded her father's empire. Growing up in a world of opulence and luxury, she had witnessed firsthand the power and wealth that came with being a part of the Smith family. However, she had always been curious about the extent of her father's business ventures and the truth behind the whispers that echoed through the corridors of high society. Of course, Jerry Smith was a shrewd businessman who knew how to keep his affairs private. He had built an empire that spanned continents, and his success was the envy of many. But behind closed doors, there was an oil well that yielded substantial profits, and a fleet of tankers that traversed the vast oceans, transporting the precious black gold to various corners of the world. These were not mere figments of imagination. They were tangible assets that contributed to the Smith family's immense wealth. One sunny afternoon, as Jane strolled through the cozy streets of the city with her close friend, she stumbled upon a chance encounter that would change her life forever. It was on one of these idyllic streets that she first laid eyes on Gareth, a talented musician who exuded an air of mystery and charm. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Jane felt an inexplicable connection that drew her towards him. As they spent more time together, Jane discovered that Gareth led a humble life, far removed from the opulence she was accustomed to. Intrigued by his rustic dwelling, which was nestled within the abandoned walls of a factory, she found herself captivated by his simplicity and authenticity. It was a stark contrast to the world she had known, and she couldn't help but be drawn to the allure of Gareth's unconventional lifestyle. One fateful night, as the moon cast its gentle glow upon them, Jane and Gareth found themselves entangled in a passionate embrace. The boundaries that separated their worlds seemed to fade away, and they surrendered to the intoxicating power of their love. In the warmth of Gareth's embrace, Jane forgot about the expectations and responsibilities that came with her privileged upbringing. For that one night, she was simply a woman in love, unburdened by the weight of her family's legacy. However, the morning after their scandalous night together brought with it a harsh reality. Jane's world collided with the consequences of her actions, and she found herself facing a life-altering revelation. As she took a pregnancy test, her heart raced with anticipation and fear. The little plastic stick held the power to confirm or shatter her hopes and dreams. When the results were finally revealed, Jane's emotions swirled in a whirlwind of shock and disbelief. She was pregnant with Gareth's child, a secret that she knew would send shockwaves through her family and the high society they belonged to. The news would undoubtedly test the strength of her relationship with her father and force her to confront the consequences of her choices. Jerry Smith, the powerful oil tycoon, was about to face a scandal that would shake the foundations of his carefully constructed empire. The revelation of his daughter's unexpected love affair and the impending arrival of a child would force him to confront his own values and priorities. Would he choose to protect his family's reputation at all costs? Or would he find the strength to embrace the unexpected and navigate the uncharted waters of love and acceptance? As Jane grappled with her own emotions and the weight of her secret, she knew that the path ahead would be treacherous. She would have to make difficult decisions, face judgment and scrutiny, and ultimately find the courage to stand by her choices. The rich girl's scandalous secret was about to be unveiled, and the consequences would be far-reaching, forever altering the lives of those involved. Jerry Smith, the renowned oil tycoon, was no stranger to rumors and speculations surrounding his vast empire. Whispers of his ownership of numerous oil wells, a fleet of tankers, and even his involvement in the construction of an oil pipeline to a neighboring country circulated among the elite circles. While some dismissed these tales as mere gossip, there was an undeniable truth to the wealth and power that Jerry Smith possessed. Among the sprawling properties and business ventures that Jerry Smith oversaw, there indeed existed an oil well that stood as a testament to his success. Nestled deep within the Earth's crust, This well was a source of immense wealth and prosperity for the Smith family. It pumped out black gold, fueling the insatiable appetite of the world's energy demands. But the oil well was not the only asset that Jerry Smith possessed. A fleet of tankers, like loyal soldiers, sailed across vast oceans, transporting the precious liquid gold to various corners of the globe. These colossal vessels, adorned with the Smith family crest, were a symbol of their dominance in the oil industry. They navigated treacherous waters, braving storms and unpredictable tides, all in the pursuit of profit and power. Jerry Smith's involvement in the construction of an oil pipeline to a neighboring country further solidified his influence in the industry. This ambitious project aimed to connect the rich oil reserves of his homeland to the energy-hungry markets of the neighboring nation. It was a testament to his vision and determination, as well as a strategic move to expand his empire beyond borders. While the rumors and speculations surrounding Jerry Smith's wealth were often exaggerated, there was an undeniable truth to the success and power he wielded. His oil well and fleet of tankers were not idle, but rather the lifeblood of his empire. They fueled his ambitions and secured his place among the elite. It was against this backdrop of opulence and power that Jane, the daughter of Jerry Smith, found herself entangled in a scandalous affair. One fateful day, while strolling through the cozy streets of the city with a friend, she crossed paths with Gareth, a talented musician with a rugged charm that captivated her heart. In the blink of an eye, Jane was drawn into Gareth's world, oblivious to the stark contrast between her privileged upbringing and his humble existence. Their chance meeting led Jane to Gareth's rustic dwelling, nestled within the abandoned confines of a once thriving factory. The stark contrast between her luxurious lifestyle and Gareth's modest abode was not lost on Jane, but the allure of his authenticity and passion overshadowed any reservations she may have had. In Gareth, she found a connection that transcended societal boundaries and expectations. As the night unfolded, Jane and Gareth shared intimate moments, their souls intertwining in a whirlwind of passion and desire. The daughter of an oil tycoon found herself immersed in a world far removed from her own, where material wealth held no sway over the raw emotions that coursed through her veins. Days turned into weeks, and Jane's world was forever changed when she discovered that she was carrying Gareth's child. The revelation sent shockwaves through her being, as she grappled with the weight of her secret and the impending consequences that awaited her. The thought of revealing the truth to her father, the powerful Jerry Smith, filled her with a mix of fear and uncertainty. In the next chapter, we delve deeper into the repercussions of Jane's scandalous night with Gareth and the unexpected connection that would forever alter the course of her life. As the rumors and speculations about Jerry Smith's involvement in the construction of an oil pipeline to a neighboring country circulated, Jane couldn't help but wonder if there was any truth to them. Growing up as the daughter of an oil tycoon, she had always been surrounded by whispers and gossip about her father's business ventures. While most of it was baseless chatter, there was a part of her that couldn't ignore the possibility. Jerry Smith had built a reputation for himself in the oil industry, with whispers of owning several oil wells and a fleet of tankers. The idea of him being involved in such a massive project like constructing an oil pipeline seemed both intriguing and daunting. Jane had always admired her father's ambition and determination, but she had never truly understood the extent of his business ventures. Curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to delve deeper into the rumors surrounding the construction of the oil pipeline. She spent hours researching and gathering information from various sources, trying to piece together the truth. It was a challenging task, as most of the information she came across was either vague or contradictory. After days of relentless searching, Jane stumbled upon an article that shed some light on her father's involvement. According to the article, Jerry Smith had indeed played a significant role in the construction of the oil pipeline. It detailed how he had collaborated with a team of engineers and experts to design and implement the project. The construction of the oil pipeline had been a massive undertaking, requiring meticulous planning and execution. It involved navigating through challenging terrains, acquiring the necessary permits and permissions, and ensuring the safety and efficiency of the entire operation. Jerry Smith's expertise in the oil industry had proven invaluable in overcoming these obstacles. The article also mentioned the economic benefits that the oil pipeline would bring to both countries involved. It would not only provide a steady supply of oil, but also create job opportunities and boost the local economies. Jane couldn't help but feel a sense of pride for her father's contribution to such a significant project. As she continued to read, Jane realized that her father's involvement in the construction of the oil pipeline was not just a business venture, but a testament to his passion for the industry. It was a reflection of his unwavering dedication and commitment to pushing boundaries and making a lasting impact. The more Jane learned about the construction of the oil pipeline, the more she understood her father's drive and ambition. It was no longer just a story of rumors and speculations. It was a tale of determination and perseverance. She couldn't help but admire her father even more for his accomplishments. With newfound knowledge and a deeper understanding of her father's business ventures, Jane felt a renewed sense of pride in her family's legacy. She realized that being the daughter of an oil tycoon came with its own set of challenges and responsibilities. It was up to her to carry forward her father's legacy and make a name for herself in the industry. Little did Jane know that her encounter with Gareth, the musician from the cozy streets of the city, would soon become a scandalous secret that would test her resolve and challenge her perception of love and societal expectations. But for now, as she closed the article and put her research aside, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe for the construction of the oil pipeline and the role her father played in it. Jane Smith, the daughter of the renowned oil tycoon Jerry Smith, led a life of luxury and privilege. Growing up in a world of opulence and extravagance, she was accustomed to the rumors and speculations that surrounded her father's wealth. Whispers of his ownership of numerous oil wells, a fleet of tankers, and even his involvement in the construction of an oil pipeline to a neighboring country were common topics of gossip among the elite circles. While most of these rumors were nothing more than idle chatter, there was an element of truth to some of them. Jerry Smith did indeed possess an oil well, and a few tankers were constantly in operation, ensuring the steady flow of wealth into the family coffers. However, the extent of his involvement in the construction of an oil pipeline remained a mystery. One fateful day, as Jane strolled through the cozy streets of the city with a close friend, she had a chance encounter that would forever alter the course of her life. As they meandered through the bustling streets, the sound of music filled the air, drawing Jane's attention. Intrigued, she followed the melodic strains until she found herself standing in front of a street musician named Gareth. Gareth, with his rugged charm and undeniable talent, captivated Jane from the moment their eyes met. There was an instant connection between them, a magnetic pull that neither could resist. As they engaged in conversation, Jane discovered that Gareth lived in a rustic dwelling on the outskirts of town, within the abandoned walls of a once thriving factory. Curiosity got the better of Jane, and she found herself accepting Gareth's invitation to visit his humble abode. As she stepped into his dwelling, she was struck by the stark contrast to her own lavish surroundings. The walls were adorned with faded graffiti, and the remnants of machinery lay scattered across the floor. Yet, amidst the dilapidation, there was an undeniable charm that emanated from Gareth's dwelling. For the first time in her life, Jane experienced a sense of freedom and authenticity that had eluded her within the confines of her privileged existence. Gareth's simple way of life, devoid of material excess, awakened a dormant part of her soul. As they spent hours talking and sharing their dreams, Jane felt a profound connection with Gareth that transcended societal boundaries. Little did Jane know that their chance meeting would lead to a scandalous night that would shake the foundations of her world. In a moment of passion and vulnerability, Jane and Gareth succumbed to their desires and spent the night together. It was a night that defied all expectations and shattered the carefully constructed facade of Jane's life. In the aftermath of their passionate encounter, Jane found herself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. Confusion, guilt, and a sense of exhilaration consumed her as she tried to come to terms with the consequences of her actions. The morning after, as she lay in Gareth's arms, she couldn't help but wonder how her life had taken such an unexpected turn. As the days turned into weeks, Jane's world was further upended when she discovered that she was pregnant. Fear and uncertainty gripped her heart as she contemplated the implications of her condition. How would her father react? What would become of her carefully cultivated image as the daughter of a wealthy oil tycoon? When Jane finally mustered the courage to share the news with her father, the reaction she received was nothing short of shocking. Jerry Smith, the epitome of wealth and power, was left speechless. The revelation of his daughter's scandalous secret threatened to tarnish his carefully crafted reputation and expose the cracks in his seemingly perfect life. As Jane navigated the uncharted waters of impending motherhood and the consequences of her actions, she was faced with a difficult decision. Would she succumb to societal pressures and abandon the love she had found with Gareth? Or would she defy expectations and embrace the unexpected path that lay before her? Little did Jane know that her decision would set in motion a series of events that would test her resilience, challenge her notions of love and privilege, and ultimately lead her to discover the true meaning of unexpected love. As Jane walked through the cozy streets of the city with her friend, she couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement in the air. The bustling city was alive with the sounds of laughter, music, and the aroma of delicious food wafting from the nearby cafes. It was a perfect day to explore and enjoy the vibrant atmosphere. As they strolled along, Jane's eyes were drawn to a street musician playing a soulful melody on his guitar. His fingers danced effortlessly across the strings, creating a beautiful harmony that resonated with her heart. Intrigued, she couldn't resist the pull and decided to approach him. Gareth, the musician, had a rugged charm that captivated Jane from the moment she laid eyes on him. His tousled hair and piercing blue eyes held a hint of mystery, and his voice carried a raw emotion that touched her soul. They struck up a conversation, and Jane discovered that Gareth had a deep passion for music and a free-spirited nature that was both alluring and refreshing. As they continued to talk, Jane found herself drawn to Gareth's carefree lifestyle. He spoke of his love for the city and how he found solace in its hidden corners and secret spots. Intrigued by his words, Jane couldn't resist the temptation to explore the city with him, to see it through his eyes. Gareth led Jane through narrow alleyways and hidden passages, revealing the city's hidden gems that were unknown to most. They wandered through vibrant markets, where the scent of exotic spices filled the air, and colorful stalls displayed an array of unique treasures. Jane felt a sense of liberation as she immersed herself in the vibrant energy of the city, away from the confines of her privileged life. As they walked hand in hand, Gareth shared stories of his encounters with the city's diverse inhabitants. From struggling artists to street performers, he introduced Jane to a world she had never known existed. They laughed together, danced to the rhythm of street musicians, and indulged in the simple pleasures that the city had to offer. Their journey eventually led them to an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. It was a place that Gareth had transformed into his rustic dwelling, a sanctuary away from the chaos of the city. Surrounded by remnants of the past, they found solace in each other's company, their connection growing stronger with each passing moment. That night, as the city slept, Jane and Gareth shared an intimate bond that transcended their differences. In the warmth of Gareth's embrace, Jane felt a sense of belonging she had never experienced before. The walls that separated their worlds crumbled, leaving only the purity of their love. Days turned into weeks, and Jane found herself torn between her newfound love and the life she had always known. The secret affair weighed heavily on her heart, and she knew that she couldn't keep it hidden forever. The cozy streets of the city had become a witness to their forbidden love, and the consequences of their actions loomed over them. Little did Jane know that the shocking revelation of her pregnancy would soon shake the foundations of her world. As she nervously took the pregnancy test, her heart raced with anticipation and fear. The results would not only determine her future, but also expose the scandalous secret she had been hiding. The cozy streets of the city, once a place of joy and freedom, now held a sense of uncertainty and apprehension. Jane's encounter with Gareth had taken her on a journey of self-discovery, but it had also led her down a path filled with unexpected consequences. The rich girl's scandalous secret was about to be unveiled, and the repercussions would be far-reaching. As Jane continued to spend more time with Gareth, she found herself becoming more intrigued by his mysterious and unconventional lifestyle. One day, as they were strolling through the city streets, Gareth mentioned that he had a unique dwelling in an unexpected location. Curiosity piqued, Jane couldn't help but ask him to show her. They walked hand in hand, venturing away from the bustling city center and into the outskirts. The scenery gradually changed from the polished buildings and busy streets to a more rustic and industrial landscape. Jane's heart raced with anticipation as they approached an abandoned factory. The factory stood tall and imposing, its windows shattered, and its walls covered in graffiti. It was a stark contrast to the luxurious surroundings Jane was accustomed to. Gareth led her through a hidden entrance, and they stepped into a world of forgotten memories and untold stories. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of rust and decay. Sunlight filtered through the broken windows, casting an ethereal glow on the remnants of machinery and discarded objects. Jane's eyes widened as she took in the sight of Gareth's dwelling. The space was a testament to Gareth's resourcefulness and creativity. He had transformed the dilapidated factory into a cozy and eclectic home. The walls were adorned with artwork and photographs, each telling a different story. Furniture made from repurposed materials added a touch of rustic charm to the space. Jane couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration for Gareth's ability to find beauty in the forgotten and discarded. It was a stark contrast to the opulence she had grown up with, but it held a certain allure that she couldn't deny. As they explored the dwelling, Gareth shared stories of his past and the struggles he had faced. He spoke of his love for music and how it had become his solace in times of hardship. Jane listened intently, captivated by his words and the passion in his voice. In that moment, Jane realized that Gareth's rustic dwelling was more than just a physical space. It was a reflection of his spirit and resilience. It represented a life lived on the fringes of society, where creativity and authenticity thrived. As the evening drew to a close, Jane couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. She was drawn to Gareth's world, but she also knew that her own life was vastly different. The contrast between their two worlds seemed insurmountable, and she couldn't help but wonder if their connection could withstand the challenges that lay ahead. Little did Jane know that their encounter would lead to a scandalous night that would forever change the course of her life. But for now, as she stood in Gareth's rustic dwelling, she couldn't help but be captivated by the allure of the unexpected and the possibility of a love that defied societal norms. Jane couldn't believe her luck. She had always lived a life of luxury and privilege, shielded from the harsh realities of the world. But that all changed one fateful day when she crossed paths with Gareth, a talented musician with a rugged charm that captivated her from the moment she laid eyes on him. It was a chance meeting, a twist of fate that brought them together on the cozy streets of the city. Jane, accompanied by her friend, was strolling through the bustling streets, enjoying the vibrant atmosphere. As they walked, laughter and conversation filled the air, but Jane's attention was drawn to the soulful melody that echoed from a nearby alley. Curiosity piqued. Jane followed the enchanting music, her heart pounding with anticipation. She found herself standing in front of Gareth, a guitar in his hands, pouring his heart and soul into each note. His voice was like velvet, weaving a spell around her, and she couldn't tear her gaze away. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Jane felt an inexplicable connection. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring them together, two souls from different worlds colliding in the most unexpected way. Gareth's eyes held a depth and vulnerability that spoke to her, and she knew she had to know more about him. As the night wore on, Jane and Gareth found themselves engrossed in conversation, sharing stories and dreams under the moonlit sky. Gareth's rustic dwelling, nestled within the abandoned factory, became a sanctuary where they could escape from the judgmental eyes of society. In Gareth, Jane found a kindred spirit, someone who saw beyond her wealth and status. He saw her for who she truly was, and that was a revelation she had never experienced before. Their connection grew stronger with each passing day, and soon they couldn't bear to be apart. It was during one passionate night that their unexpected connection took a scandalous turn. The barriers that society had erected between them crumbled, and they surrendered to their desires. In the warmth of each other's embrace, they found solace and a love that defied all odds. But as the morning light filtered through the window, reality came crashing down upon them. Jane's mind was filled with a whirlwind of emotions, fear, guilt, and uncertainty. She knew that her actions would have consequences that could shatter her carefully constructed world. Days turned into weeks, and Jane couldn't escape the nagging feeling that something had changed within her. Doubt gnawed at her, and she decided to take a pregnancy test, hoping against hope that it would prove her fears wrong. But when the test confirmed her suspicions, her heart sank, and she was overwhelmed with a mix of emotions. The news of her pregnancy was a shock that reverberated through her entire being. How would she tell her father, the powerful oil tycoon who had built an empire? How would he react to the scandalous secret she now carried within her? Jane knew that her life would never be the same again. As she braced herself for the storm that was about to come, Jane couldn't help but wonder if love was worth the sacrifices she would have to make. Would she be able to face the consequences of her actions and find the strength to forge her own path? Or would she succumb to the pressures of society and abandon the unexpected love that had turned her world upside down? Only time would tell. Jane couldn't believe what had just happened. She had spent the night with Gareth, a street musician she had met just a few days ago. As she lay in bed, her mind raced with a mix of emotions: excitement, guilt, and uncertainty. The night had started innocently enough. After their chance meeting on the cozy streets of the city, Jane and Gareth had spent hours talking and getting to know each other. Gareth's passion for music and his carefree spirit had captivated Jane, drawing her towards him like a moth to a flame. As the evening turned into night, Gareth had invited Jane to his rustic dwelling, located on the premises of an abandoned factory. It was a place that seemed worlds apart from Jane's luxurious lifestyle, but she was drawn to the authenticity and simplicity of Gareth's life. Entering his dwelling, Jane was greeted by the sight of old musical instruments, scattered books, and artwork adorning the walls. The space exuded a sense of creativity and freedom that Jane had never experienced before. It was a stark contrast to the opulence and formality of her own home. As the night progressed, Jane and Gareth shared stories, dreams, and laughter. They connected on a level that Jane had never thought possible. In Gareth, she found a kindred spirit, someone who saw beyond her wealth and status. It was a refreshing change from the superficial relationships she was accustomed to. As the hours slipped away, Jane's initial reservations began to fade. The chemistry between her and Gareth was undeniable, and they found solace in each other's arms. The night was filled with passion, tenderness, and a sense of freedom that Jane had never experienced before. In the quiet moments after their intimate encounter, Jane couldn't help but wonder about the consequences of their actions. She knew that her world and Gareth's were worlds apart, and the reality of their situation began to sink in. How would her family react? What would her father, the oil tycoon, say? The morning after was filled with a mix of emotions. Jane woke up to find Gareth still sleeping beside her, his peaceful expression contrasting with the turmoil in her mind. She gently brushed a strand of hair away from his face, feeling a surge of affection and protectiveness towards him. As she got dressed, Jane couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt and shame. She knew that her actions would have consequences, not just for herself, but for Gareth as well. The thought of her father's reaction weighed heavily on her, knowing that he would never approve of her relationship with someone from a different social class. Leaving Gareth's dwelling, Jane felt a sense of longing and uncertainty. She knew that she couldn't ignore the connection she felt with him, but she also couldn't deny the reality of their different worlds. The rich girl and the street musician. It was a scandal waiting to happen. Little did Jane know that the consequences of that night would be far greater than she could have ever imagined. As she took a pregnancy test in the privacy of her own bathroom, her heart raced with fear and anticipation. The test would reveal a truth that would shake her world and force her to confront the scandalous secret she had unwittingly created. The morning sun peeked through the curtains, casting a warm glow on the room. Jane slowly opened her eyes, her mind still foggy from the events of the previous night. As she tried to gather her thoughts, the reality of what had transpired hit her like a ton of bricks. She had spent the night with Gareth, a street musician living in a rustic dwelling on the outskirts of the city. As Jane sat up in bed, she couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions swirling inside her. Confusion, regret, and a tinge of excitement all battled for dominance in her mind. She couldn't deny the undeniable connection she had felt with Gareth, but the stark contrast between their worlds was now glaringly apparent. Gareth stirred beside her, his eyes fluttering open. He looked at Jane, a soft smile playing on his lips. "Good morning," he whispered, his voice filled with warmth and tenderness. Jane couldn't help but smile back, momentarily forgetting the weight of the situation they found themselves in. But reality quickly came crashing back as Jane's mind raced with thoughts of her father, Jerry Smith, and the scandal that would surely ensue if their night together became public knowledge. She knew that her father's reputation as an oil tycoon would be at stake, and her own privileged life would be forever changed. Gareth, sensing Jane's unease, reached out and gently took her hand. "We'll figure this out," he said softly, his eyes filled with determination. "No matter what happens, we'll face it together." Jane nodded, grateful for Gareth's support. She knew that she couldn't hide the truth from her father forever, but she also couldn't bear the thought of losing Gareth. They had shared something special, something that transcended their different backgrounds. As they got out of bed and prepared for the day ahead, Jane's mind was filled with questions and uncertainties. How would her father react when he found out about her night with Gareth? Would he understand or disapprove? And most importantly, what would she do if she was indeed pregnant? The thought of a possible pregnancy sent a wave of panic through Jane's body. She knew that she needed to take a pregnancy test to confirm her suspicions, but the fear of the unknown loomed over her. Would she be ready to face the responsibilities of motherhood? And what would Gareth's reaction be if the test came back positive? With a heavy heart, Jane made her way to the bathroom and reached for the pregnancy test kit. As she waited for the results, her mind raced with a million different scenarios. She knew that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't even begin to comprehend. Minutes felt like hours as Jane anxiously watched the test strip. Finally, the results appeared, and her heart skipped a beat. The test was positive. Tears welled up in her eyes as a mix of emotions washed over her. She was both terrified and strangely elated at the prospect of becoming a mother. As Jane emerged from the bathroom, her face pale and her eyes red from crying, Gareth was waiting for her with open arms. He knew without her saying a word what the test results had revealed. Without hesitation, he pulled her into a tight embrace, offering her the comfort and support she so desperately needed in that moment. Together, they faced the morning after, knowing that their lives were about to change forever. The road ahead would be filled with challenges and obstacles, but they were determined to navigate it together. Love had found them unexpectedly, and now they would face the consequences of their actions with courage and resilience. Little did they know that the shocking revelation of Jane's pregnancy would be just the beginning of a scandal that would rock the world of the rich and powerful. The secret they held would soon be unveiled, exposing the hidden truths and challenging the boundaries of love and societal expectations. Jane couldn't believe her eyes as she stared at the small plastic stick in her hand. The 2 pink lines that appeared on the test were a clear indication of what she had feared deep down. She was pregnant. Panic surged through her veins, and her mind raced with a whirlwind of emotions. Sitting on the edge of her luxurious bathroom, Jane's heart pounded in her chest. How could this have happened? She had always been careful, taking every precaution to avoid such a situation. But fate had a way of playing tricks on even the most cautious of individuals. As the reality of her situation sank in, Jane's thoughts turned to Gareth, the musician she had met on that fateful day in the cozy streets of the city. Their encounter had been unexpected, and their connection had been instant. She had been drawn to his free-spirited nature and his passion for music. But now their night together held consequences that she couldn't ignore. With trembling hands, Jane reached for her phone and dialed Gareth's number. She needed to tell them the news, to share the weight of this burden. As the phone rang, her mind wandered back to that night they had spent together in his rustic dwelling. The abandoned factory had seemed like a world away from her privileged life, and yet, in that moment, it had felt like home. Gareth's voice came through the phone, filled with warmth and curiosity. Jane took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "Gareth, we need to talk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm pregnant." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, and Jane's heart sank. She feared Gareth would be overwhelmed by the news, that he would distance himself from her and the responsibility that lay ahead. But to her surprise, his voice was filled with a mix of shock and concern. "Jane, are you sure?" Gareth asked, his voice filled with genuine worry. We need to figure this out together. I'll be there for you." Relief washed over Jane as she realized that she wouldn't have to face this alone. Gareth's support meant the world to her, and she knew that together they would find a way to navigate the challenges that lay ahead. But there was still one person she needed to tell, someone whose reaction she feared the most: her father, Jerry Smith, the oil tycoon who had built an empire from the ground up, the man who had always expected nothing but perfection from his daughter. Summoning all her courage, Jane made her way to her father's study. The room was filled with the scent of leather-bound books and the faint aroma of cigars. Jerry Smith sat behind his mahogany desk, engrossed in his work. As Jane entered, he looked up, his eyes narrowing in curiosity. "Dad, we need to talk," she said, her voice steady despite the nerves that threatened to overwhelm her. Jerry Smith raised an eyebrow, his gaze fixed on his daughter. "What is it, Jane? You seem troubled." Taking a deep breath, Jane blurted out the words she had been dreading to say. "I'm pregnant, Dad. Gareth and I are going to have a baby." The room fell silent as Jerry Smith processed the news. His face turned pale, and his eyes widened in shock. Jane could see the disappointment and anger flicker across his features before he composed himself. "You've made a grave mistake, Jane," he said, his voice laced with a mix of anger and disappointment. "But we will deal with this. We will find a way to protect our family's reputation." Jane's heart sank as she realized the gravity of her father's words. The scandal that would follow her pregnancy would undoubtedly rock their privileged world. But deep down, she knew that she couldn't let her father's expectations dictate her life any longer. As she left her father's study, Jane made a silent vow to herself. She would face the consequences of her actions head-on, no matter the cost. The rich girl's scandalous secret was out, and she was determined to embrace the unexpected love that had brought her to this point in her life. Jerry Smith sat in his lavish office, surrounded by opulence and luxury. The room exuded power and success, a reflection of his status as an oil tycoon. His mind was preoccupied with thoughts of his daughter, Jane, and the recent scandal that had rocked their family. As the rumors and speculations about his wealth circulated, Jerry had always dismissed them as mere gossip. He had worked hard to build his empire, starting from scratch and turning it into a thriving business. The oil wells, tankers, and the construction of the oil pipeline were all part of his success story. But now, those rumors seemed to have taken a toll on his family. When Jane had first introduced Gareth to him, Jerry had been skeptical. The young musician seemed out of place in their world of luxury and privilege, but he had trusted his daughter's judgment and allowed her to explore her own path. Little did he know that this encounter would lead to such a scandalous night. As Jerry sat in his office, his mind wandered back to that fateful night. He remembered the shock and disbelief he felt when Jane had confessed to spending the night with Gareth. The news had hit him like a tidal wave, shattering the image he had of his daughter. He couldn't comprehend how she could have made such a reckless decision. The next morning, when Jane had taken the pregnancy test, Jerry's shock had intensified. The thought of becoming a grandfather so soon was overwhelming. He had always envisioned a different future for his daughter, one filled with success and stability. Now, everything seemed uncertain. Jerry's initial reaction was a mix of anger, disappointment, and concern. He couldn't understand how Jane could have jeopardized her future for a fleeting romance. He felt a sense of betrayal, as if his daughter had disregarded everything he had worked so hard to provide for her. But as the shock subsided, Jerry's love for his daughter took over. He realized that he needed to support her through this difficult time, regardless of his own feelings. He knew that his reaction would shape their relationship and the way Jane dealt with the consequences of her actions. Jerry called for a family meeting, where he expressed his concerns and disappointment. However, he also made it clear that he would stand by Jane and support her in whatever decision she made. He wanted her to understand the gravity of the situation and the impact it would have on their family's reputation, but he also wanted her to know that he loved her unconditionally. Over the following weeks, Jerry worked tirelessly to manage the scandal that had erupted. He hired a team of PR experts to handle the media and protect their family's image. He also reached out to Gareth, wanting to understand his intentions and ensure that he would take responsibility if Jane's pregnancy turned out to be true. Jerry's reaction to the shocking revelation was a testament to his love for his daughter. He may have been initially shocked and disappointed, but he quickly realized that his role as a father was to support and guide Jane through this challenging time. He understood that mistakes were a part of life, and it was his responsibility to help her navigate the consequences. As the days turned into weeks, Jerry's relationship with Jane began to heal. They had many conversations, both difficult and heartfelt, as they worked through their emotions and the impact of the scandal. Jerry learned to let go of his expectations and embrace the unexpected turns that life sometimes took. In the end, Jerry's reaction became a turning point in their relationship. It was a reminder that love and family were more important than wealth and reputation. Together, they faced the consequences of Jane's actions, and in doing so, they discovered a deeper understanding and appreciation for each other. Jane sat in her luxurious bedroom, her mind racing with thoughts and emotions. The events of the past few weeks had turned her life upside down. She had always been the epitome of a rich girl, living a life of privilege and luxury. But now, she found herself facing a scandalous secret that threatened to shatter her carefully constructed world. As she stared at the positive pregnancy test in her hand, Jane's heart pounded in her chest. She knew that she had to make a decision, and it was one that would change the course of her life forever. Should she keep the baby and face the consequences, or should she consider other options? The weight of her family's expectations bore down on her. Her father, Jerry Smith, was a prominent oil tycoon, and the thought of tarnishing the family name with a scandal was unbearable. But deep down, Jane knew that she couldn't simply erase the truth. She had to confront the reality of her situation and make a choice that felt right to her. Jane's mind wandered back to that fateful night when she had met Gareth, the musician who had captured her heart. Despite their differences in social status, she had felt an undeniable connection with him. Their encounter had been unexpected, and the passion they had shared had been intense. But now, their relationship was complicated by the secret growing inside her. She thought about Gareth's rustic dwelling, tucked away in the abandoned factory. It was a stark contrast to the opulence she was accustomed to, but it had felt like home in that moment. Jane wondered if Gareth would be willing to take on the responsibility of fatherhood, or if he would even want to be a part of their child's life. Tears welled up in Jane's eyes as she grappled with the weight of her decision. She knew that whatever choice she made would have far-reaching consequences. If she chose to keep the baby, she would have to face the judgment and scrutiny of her family and society. But if she decided to terminate the pregnancy, she would forever carry the weight of that choice on her shoulders. In the midst of her turmoil, Jane found solace in the support of her closest friends. They reminded her that she had the right to make her own decisions and that her happiness and well-being should be her top priority. They encouraged her to consider all her options and to trust her instincts. After much contemplation, Jane made her decision. She chose to keep the baby. She knew that it would be a difficult journey, filled with challenges and sacrifices, but she couldn't deny the love she already felt for the life growing inside her. She was determined to face the consequences head-on and to create a loving and nurturing environment for her child. With her decision made, Jane braced herself for the storm that was about to come. She knew that her father would be shocked and disappointed, and that the scandal would rock their privileged world. But she also knew that she had the strength and resilience to weather the storm and to create a new path for herself and her child. As Jane prepared to unveil her secret to her family and the world, she felt a mix of fear and excitement. She knew that her life would never be the same again, but she was ready to embrace the unexpected journey that lay ahead. With love and determination in her heart, Jane took a deep breath and stepped into the unknown, ready to face the consequences of her decision. The news of Jane's scandalous night with Gareth spread like wildfire throughout the city. It seemed like everyone had an opinion on the matter, and the media was quick to sensationalize the story. The tabloids were filled with headlines about the rich girl's secret rendezvous with a street musician, and the public couldn't get enough of the scandal. As the daughter of a prominent oil tycoon, Jane was used to being in the spotlight, but this was a whole new level of attention. The scandal not only threatened to tarnish her family's reputation, but also put her own future at stake. She knew she had to face the consequences head-on and deal with the fallout from her impulsive actions. The first step for Jane was to confront her father, Jerry Smith, about the situation. She knew that he would be furious and disappointed, but she also hoped that he would understand and support her. With a heavy heart, she sat down with him and revealed the truth about her night with Gareth and the pregnancy test. Jerry Smith's initial reaction was one of shock and anger. He couldn't believe that his daughter had gotten herself involved in such a scandalous affair. He questioned her judgment and reminded her of the responsibilities that came with being a part of their wealthy and influential family. Jane listened to her father's words, feeling a mix of guilt and regret for her actions. However, as the initial shock wore off, Jerry Smith realized that his daughter needed his support more than ever. He understood that she was facing the consequences of her choices and that it was his role as a father to guide her through this difficult time. Despite his disappointment, he made it clear to Jane that he would stand by her side and help her navigate the scandal. Together, they devised a plan to address the public scrutiny and salvage their family's reputation. They decided to hold a press conference where Jane would publicly acknowledge her mistake and take responsibility for her actions. Jerry Smith would also speak at the conference, expressing his disappointment but emphasizing his love and support for his daughter. The press conference was a highly anticipated event, with journalists and photographers from various media outlets in attendance. Jane stood before the crowd, her voice trembling with nervousness as she admitted her mistake and apologized to her family, friends, and the public. She expressed her regret for her impulsive actions and vowed to learn from her mistakes. Jerry Smith followed his daughter's speech with his own, expressing his disappointment in her choices, but also emphasizing his unconditional love and support. He acknowledged that everyone makes mistakes and that it was important to learn from them and grow as individuals. He assured the public that his family would take the necessary steps to address the situation and move forward. The press conference marked a turning point in Jane's life. While the scandal had initially threatened to destroy her reputation in future, her willingness to take responsibility and her father's support helped her regain some control over the narrative. The public's reaction was mixed, with some criticizing her actions while others commended her for her honesty and willingness to face the consequences. In the following weeks and months, Jane focused on rebuilding her life. She sought therapy to address the underlying issues that had led to her impulsive behavior and worked on developing a stronger sense of self. She also became involved in various philanthropic endeavors, using her family's wealth and influence to make a positive impact on society. The scandal eventually faded from the public's memory, replaced by new headlines and gossip. Jane's life moved on, but the experience had left a lasting impact on her. It taught her the importance of making responsible choices and being mindful of the consequences of her actions. It also strengthened her bond with her father as they navigated the aftermath of the scandal together. As time went on, Jane's scandal became a distant memory, but the lessons she learned from it stayed with her. She grew into a strong and independent woman, using her experiences to shape her future and make a difference in the world. The rich girl's secret was unveiled, but it was her resilience and determination that truly defined her. As the news of Jane's scandalous night with Gareth spread like wildfire, the whispers and speculations grew louder. The elite circles of society were abuzz with the shocking revelation, and the media couldn't get enough of the scandal. The rich girl's secret was about to be unveiled, and the consequences would be far-reaching. The news of Jane's unexpected encounter with Gareth had captured the attention of the public and the media alike. Tabloids and gossip magazines were quick to seize the opportunity to exploit the scandal, publishing sensational headlines and speculating about the true nature of their relationship. Paparazzi camped outside Jane's luxurious mansion, hoping to catch a glimpse of the scandalous couple. Jerry Smith, Jane's father and the renowned oil tycoon, was devastated by the news. He had built an empire from scratch and had always strived to protect his family's reputation. The revelation of his daughter's scandalous secret was a blow to his carefully crafted image. Jerry's initial reaction was one of anger and disappointment, but as a father, he couldn't abandon his daughter in her time of need. Jane's mother, Elizabeth, was torn between her love for her daughter and her loyalty to her husband. She struggled to come to terms with the fact that her daughter had been involved in such a scandalous affair. Elizabeth knew that the consequences of this revelation would be far-reaching, not only for Jane, but for the entire family. As news of Jane's scandal broke, Society was quick to pass judgment. The elite circles that once welcomed her with open arms now turned their backs on her. Friends and acquaintances distanced themselves, fearing that the scandal would tarnish their own reputations. Jane found herself isolated and alone, facing the consequences of her actions. Jane was overwhelmed by the weight of the scandal and the judgment of society. She had always lived a privileged life, shielded from the harsh realities of the world. Now she found herself at the center of a storm, grappling with her own emotions and the consequences of her choices. Deep down, Jane knew that her encounter with Gareth had been a momentary escape from the suffocating expectations placed upon her. She had been drawn to his carefree spirit and the simplicity of his life. But now she had to face the consequences of her actions and find a way to navigate the storm that had engulfed her. Determined to make amends and find redemption, Jane embarked on a journey of self-discovery. She sought solace in therapy, where she confronted her own insecurities and the pressures that had led her to make such a reckless decision. Jane realized that she had been searching for something more meaningful in her life, something that money and privilege couldn't provide. As she delved deeper into her own psyche, Jane began to understand the importance of personal growth and the need to break free from the constraints of societal expectations. She vowed to use her privilege and resources to make a positive impact on the world, to prove that she was more than just a rich girl with a scandalous secret. Jane's journey towards redemption also involved rebuilding the relationships that had been strained by the scandal. She reached out to her father, Jerry, and apologized for the pain she had caused him. Jerry, in turn, realized that he had been too focused on his own image and had neglected his daughter's emotional well-being. The two began to mend their relationship, slowly rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. Elizabeth, too, found it in her heart to forgive her daughter. She recognized that Jane's actions were a result of her own struggles and the pressure she had faced as a member of the elite society. Mother and daughter embraced each other, vowing to support one another through the challenges that lay ahead. With her family's support and a newfound sense of purpose, Jane set out to make a difference in the world. She used her wealth and influence to establish charitable foundations, focusing on education and health care for underprivileged communities. Jane became an advocate for social justice, using her voice to raise awareness about the inequalities that plague society. Through her journey of redemption, Jane discovered that true happiness and fulfillment came from making a positive impact on the lives of others. She realized that her scandalous secret had been a catalyst for change, pushing her to break free from the confines of her privileged upbringing and embrace a new path. As the media frenzy died down and society's judgment faded into the background, Jane emerged as a symbol of resilience and transformation. Her story served as a reminder that even the most unexpected love and scandalous secrets could lead to profound personal growth and a greater purpose in life. Give it a like if you liked the story. Thanks for your attention and stay tuned.